Hi, I'm Bonnie Kempke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on a Thread. This is the 10th video in my Color My World series, and that's my journey through this pattern, Color My World by Wendy Williams. The link to the pattern is, of course, in the description of this video. It's also going to appear in an information button at the top of the screen at some point or several points throughout the video. So this video is going to cover block 4. That's the trees for the houses that you've just seen me complete in my last video. Now, the trees assume that you have already sistered up your houses 1 and 2, 3 and 4, and you're ready to attach the trees. I'm actually going to be sistering up the houses and attaching the trees as I go, but of course before I can do that, I need to go ahead and do the tree tops. So one of the templates in your pattern set is the tree outline. So it's guidelines for the 1/4 inch fusible bias tape. So those will be done, and then you'll attach tree tops at the top of those branches. And the top of this will line up with the top of your 2 sistered houses. Now the pattern calls for 2 alternating greens, but I'm going to be using 4 or 5 colors. I already have 12 of those done. And what I'm going to do in this video is demonstrate how to do one of these tree tops, and then I will proceed with the video in sistering up houses, putting on the bias tape and attaching the tree tops to the completed sistered houses. So now I have you here, and I actually have 2 colors, and these are the last 4 of my trees, tree greeneries to do. Now one of the things that Wendy Williams pattern suggests is that you take 2 pieces of your freezer paper and iron them together and cut out your template, and then use the template there to cut out your tree tops. So also in her pattern, she suggests to do this just the opposite of what I've done. I've ironed this down so that I have something to cut against. She suggests putting it with the shiny side up so that you'll iron your seam allowance over, and that it'll stick to the freezer paper. I chose to do it just the opposite way, and I'm going to show you why. So it's probably good, they've been setting a while, it's probably a good thing to go ahead and re-iron these down so that the freezer paper pieces have been used a bit, so we want to make sure that they're secure on my cloth. I want to make sure that you can see me. To cut these out, you cut right along the edge of the top of your greenery, because that's going to be right on the edge of the top of your 2 sistered houses. So after you cut that out, you cut and leave a seam allowance for the bottom portion of your greenery. And that's the part that's going to get ironed over onto your double layer of freezer paper, which gives it a harder texture. It's more like a thin cardboard at this point. So then once you have those done, what I found was very easy is take your iron and slide your iron over the edges of your paper, grabbing the material as you go, and that kind of creates that nice crisp fold that you want. And you want to do this a couple of times and start resting your iron on it more and more as you go, and that'll create that crisp fold. And you're going to need that crisp fold. You're going to need that crisp fold because you have to create this nice, edge. So now the next thing you're going to do is you're going to remove your template. And you still have all that in place. And you've got two options here now. You can just re-iron, or I am preferring using my glue stick, and I'm just going to draw my glue stick as close to the pressed line as possible. And as I do that, then I'm going to come in and finger press that in place. But a glue stick holds best if you apply some heat. So once I have that finger pressed in place, I'll get my little iron and I'll start pressing those edges down. Now you do not need the glue stick. It's just that it is letting me let this sit up for a couple of days as I work on the houses. But you see how that's all nice and crisp, and you're going to be tacking that down on your sistered houses. So I'm going to go ahead and finish up these trees. Now that you've seen how the treetops get created, I'm ready to show you the path to creating a creating this block. And so I've sistered two of the houses together. Notice that it's very important that you maintain that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance between the two houses. And what you'll get is houses where the roof lines, boom, they come right up to the seam. So the next thing to keep in mind is one of those treetops is going to sit right here at the top of this house, and it's going to, at these two houses, and it's going to go tip to tip right there. And you're going to want to consider securing that top, but not sewing it down yet, but you want to secure that top, that treetop, to your two houses. And the reason why you want to do that is you're going to build the branches of the tree down, and you want to know where to bring your branches up to. So if you do that, then that's going to help out a lot. Now, then you have this template, and the template is a guide. You don't have to follow it ad nauseum. And in fact, I suggest that you change things up, like maybe only do 2 branches instead of 3 on some of your houses. But what I have done is I cut little holes in my template, and this is why. So I can set that template, find the bottom of that treetop. So I can put that template in there, and then I can use chalk, a pencil, or a disappearing ink pen, or a water-soluble ink pen, something. But I can put those marks in there, and then I can use those to guide me. So what I had been doing before I cut those holes was I had been using pins. And I went ahead and left these pins in to show you, because you could see the dots. And so those actually line up with, match up with the placement of the template. And so they're kind of, they're useful. So again, this is not sewn down. It's just pinned in place so that I have that visual on my sistered houses. So then, bringing in another one, I've done 2 of the lower branches, and I've laid the 1/4-inch fusible binding out. And notice the whole idea is that I can create curves with that fusible binding. And I've lightly pressed that in place, but it's still movable. And I could take it up. And there's a reason for that. When I bring in my branch, and you remember I told you not to follow the template ad nauseum, I have actually reversed these. But I then laid my tree down, and these edges that aren't absolutely secured on the tree branches, they're just lightly ironed, but they're still movable. I can cut those off underneath the tree branch that is going to be my primary tree. Now I'm going to bring this in. Hopefully you can see I've not yet sewn these down, so I haven't stitched those in place. But just as I was able to pull the other stuff up, I can pull that up again. It's not going to be permanent until I come in and stitch those down. And once they're stitched down, then I also will stitch down the tree. Make sure you can see it. So I'll stitch down the tree. So I use black with the black fusible binding, bias tape, and I use a green for the greenery because I don't want the stitches to stand out greatly. So that's what your house with the treetops and the trees and treetop will look like. And remember, they started out just like this. And so you're going to go from this to this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish the rest of my pairings and put the trees in place. And so here I am. I got so excited working on these houses. And as I just went around, I just sewed them together as I went. And so it just pieced together so nicely, and it looks really, really cute. And one of the things that I want to tell you is it's very important to maintain that 1/4 inch seam, and that your seams are straight as you're sewing this circular piece together. Because if you get these seams going wonky, it's going to be very, very hard then to bring in and attach this to your Mariner's Star. And if you'll remember a few videos back, I showed you this where the houses seemed that they were not going to come up and meet that Mariner's compass, the Mariner's Star, however you like to call it. But when you put this in, you see that it comes right up to it. And the pop of color against that roadway is really, really surprisingly addictive. I love this. You know, I've said it over and over again how much fun I find this pattern, and I've had a couple of people comment and say, wow, I wish I could do something that complicated. This is not complicated. It's little pieces building to become this gigantic wall hanging. So that's it for what I'll cover in this video. My next video will be attaching my village of houses to the inner roadway, which is going to be very similar to attaching the roadway to the Mariner's Compass, but it's going to be complicated by the size of this piece. And so that's going to take a lot of extra maneuvering to make sure that everything stays in line. But that will be our next video. In the meantime, I hope that this has been helping you on your journey if you've chosen to do the Color My World pattern. And if you haven't, please consider it because it's a lot of fun. Hope to see you again here on Quilting on a Thread.